Emma's hands trembled on the shotgun as something slammed against her cabin door. 3 days into the worst blizzard in 20 years, and now this. Wolves had been circling since sunset. But wolves didn't knock. She'd lost everything once: her husband, her baby, her will to trust strangers. Opening that door could mean inviting death inside. Yet through the howling wind, she heard it: a child's cry. Emma's finger left the trigger. Some choices damn you either way. If you want to see how one moment of kindness changes 3 broken lives forever, subscribe to our channel and watch until the very end. Comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Emma hadn't spoken to another human being in 43 days. She'd stopped counting after Thomas died, but the silence had a way of marking time. Winter in the Colorado mountains was brutal. This year, it felt personal. The blizzard started 3 days ago and swallowed the world whole. She was down to her last can of beans. The wolves arrived at dusk. Their howls cut through the wind like knives. Emma loaded the shotgun, Thomas's shotgun, and waited. Then came the knock. 3 solid pounds against the door. Emma grabbed the gun and stood. "Get away from here. Please." A man's voice, barely audible. "My daughter's freezing." She pressed against the wall. 2 years ago, a drifter asked for water. He robbed the Chens and beat Mrs. Chen half to death. "I've got a gun," Emma said. "I'll use it." "I believe you." The man's voice stayed calm. "We'll try the next cabin." Then she heard it. "Daddy, I can't feel my feet." A child. Small voice. Maybe 6 years old. Emma's hand went to the locket around her neck. The one with the photo of the baby she'd buried 3 winters ago. Fever took him in 2 days. She'd held his body until it went cold. Thomas died 6 months later. The death certificate said flu. Emma knew better. Hearts could stop from breaking. The child whimpered again. Emma cursed and threw back the bolt. The door opened 6 inches, gun raised. The man was tall, 40s, ice-crusted in his dark beard. His coat looked expensive once. Now it was frozen stiff. His eyes, gray like winter sky, didn't flinch from the gun. In his arms, a little girl with blonde curls and blue lips. "One night," Emma said. "You're gone at dawn." "Yes, ma'am." Emma stepped back. The wind rushed in, bringing snow and 2 strangers into her careful solitude. "By the fire," Emma said. Slowly. The man carried the girl inside. Emma slammed the door and threw the bolt. She kept the gun on them while they dripped on her floor. "Set her down." He knelt and placed the child near the stove. Her eyes were closed. Her breathing came shallow. "Warm her up slow," Emma said. "Too fast will hurt worse." "I know." His hands shook as he unwrapped the frozen blanket. "I'm James Colton. This is Sarah." Emma didn't offer her name. She fed the stove with precious wood. Behind her, James murmured to his daughter. "Where were you headed?" Emma asked. "Boulder. Storm turned on us. Truck's in a ditch 2 miles back." 2 miles in this?" Emma looked at him. "That should have killed you." "Nearly did." James rubbed Sarah's feet. They were white as bone. "But my girl's tougher than she looks." Sarah's eyes opened. "Daddy." "Right here, baby. We're safe. This lady let us in." The child turned her head. Her eyes were clear blue, lake water in summer. "Thank you," Sarah whispered. Emma's throat closed. She turned back to the stove. "I'll make something hot." 1 tea bag left. She'd been saving it for nothing. She put water on to heat. Behind her, James kept talking to Sarah in that low voice. "Remember what I told you about asking the mountain for help? Sometimes she sends us to people who can help instead." "Is she a mountain angel?" Sarah asked. James chuckled. "Maybe." "I'm not an angel," Emma said. "Stay your night, then go. That's the deal." "Yes, ma'am." The water took forever. Emma made tea and brought it in her least cracked mug. "Small sips," she told James. He held the mug to Sarah's lips. The girl drank, eyes never leaving Emma's face. "What's your name?" Sarah asked. Emma hesitated. "Emma. That's pretty. Drink your tea." James finished helping Sarah drink. He rubbed her hands, now working circulation back. "When'd she last eat?" Emma asked. "Yesterday morning. Crackers." Emma went to her shelf. Last can of beans. She opened it and dumped it in the pot. If the child died here, that would be trouble. That was the only reason she was doing this. She added water and set it to heat. "You don't have to," James started. "She needs food." "So do you." Emma didn't answer. She stirred and tried not to think about tomorrow. She pulled out her last half loaf of bread. Hard as stone. She broke it into chunks and dropped them in the pot. "I'm sorry for this," James said. He stood near the fire, now warming his hands. "I know we're not welcome." "I didn't say you were welcome." "No, ma'am. But you opened the door anyway." Emma shot him a look. "I let a freezing child in. You just came attached." Something flickered in his eyes. Gone before she could name it. The beans bubbled. Emma took 3 bowls. She split the food, smallest portion for herself, largest for Sarah, middle for James. She brought Sarah's bowl over. Let it cool. Sarah pushed herself up. Color was coming back. "Will you eat with us?" "I'll eat over there." "Please." Those big blue eyes. "Daddy says eating together makes food taste better." The way the child said her name, like they were already friends, cracked something in Emma's chest. She sank down onto the rug beside them. They ate in silence. Wind outside, fire crackling, spoons on wood. Emma watched Sarah. The girl ate carefully. Someone had taught her manners. "How old are you?" Emma asked. 7. "How old are you?" "Sarah," James said gently. "It's fine, I'm 28. Sarah's eyebrows went up. "You look older." "Sarah." Emma laughed. Actually laughed. Rusty as a door that hadn't opened in years. "Mountains will do that." "Is that why you live alone?" Sarah asked. "Sarah, enough." "It's fine." Emma set down her bowl. "I live alone because everyone I loved died. It's easier than losing somebody again." The words hung there. Emma hadn't meant to say them. James was quiet for a long moment. "I understand that." Something in his voice made Emma really look at him. Grief carved into the lines around his eyes. "Sarah's mother," James said quietly. "Cancer, 2 years ago. I'm sorry." "Me too." He looked at his daughter. "But I still have this one, so I keep going." Emma felt something shift in her chest. "You should sleep," she said to Sarah. "You too. Take the bed." "Absolutely not," James said. "Floor's fine. The child needs—" "We've slept in worse." They stared at each other. 2 stubborn people. Finally, Emma shrugged. "Blankets are in the chest." James made a nest near the fire. Sarah curled into his arms like a small animal. Emma sat in her chair, gun across her lap, watching them. "Mr. Colton," Emma said into the darkness. "James? Why were you really going to Boulder in winter?" Long silence. Then, "My wife's grave. I visit every year on her birthday. Today." Emma's hand tightened on the gun. "You dragged your daughter through a blizzard for a grave. Storm turned on us. We would have made it." He stopped, breathed. "You're right. It was selfish. I just needed to tell her about Sarah, about how she's growing." The pain in his voice was raw. "Sarah asks about her sometimes," James continued. "I don't know what to say. So I thought if we went together, maybe it would help." "Did it help last year?" "No. Made it worse." Bitter laugh. "But I keep going back. Like if I visit enough times, she'll be less dead." Emma understood. God, she understood. First year after Thomas died, she talked to his empty chair, set 2 plates, washed his clothes. "My husband's buried in the valley," she said. "Haven't visited once." "Why not?" "Because it won't bring him back. And I'm afraid if I go down, I won't come back up. I'll just lie down next to him and wait for the cold." She hadn't told anyone that. But in the darkness, with strangers leaving tomorrow, truth spilled out. "That why you live up here?" James asked. "To make it harder?" "Maybe. Or maybe I'm just a coward." "You opened your door in a blizzard. That's not cowardice." "I almost didn't." "But you did. That's what matters." Sarah mumbled in her sleep. James stroked her hair. "She's all I have," he said. "If anything happened to her..." "Nothing will. Storm will break. You'll get to Boulder and go home." "Where's home for you?" Emma looked around. 13 by 16 feet. 1 room, 1 woman turning into a ghost. "This is it." "That's not a home. That's a hiding place." The words hit hard. Emma stood, gun clattering. "You don't know me." "You're right. But I know hiding. Been doing it 2 years. Different ways, same thing." "Smart." "Is it because it just looks lonely?" Emma turned away, eyes burning. "Get some sleep. Dawn comes early." She heard him lie back down, then his voice quiet. "Thank you for letting us in." Emma didn't answer. She stared into the fire until her eyes blurred and flames became stars, became memories. Sometime before dawn, she slept. Emma woke to the smell of meat. She sat up fast. "What are you doing?" James turned from the stove, small smile. "Morning. Set some snares at first light. Caught 2 rabbits." "You went out in the storm." "Broke enough to move around." He gestured to the pot. "Figured it was fair trade." Emma stood and came closer. Real meat. She couldn't remember the last time. "That was stupid. You could have gotten lost. The wolves..." "I'm harder to kill than I look." He stirred the pot. "Besides, Sarah needs more than beans." Emma looked at the bed where Sarah slept. The child looked peaceful. "You should have woken me. You needed sleep. You were talking in yours." Emma felt her face heat. "What did I say?" "Nothing clear. Just names. Thomas. Someone else." Kind eyes. "I'm sorry for your losses." "Don't." Harder than she meant. "Don't be nice. You're leaving today anyway." Storm's still too heavy. Another day at least. Emma's heart did something complicated. "Fine. 1 more night. But you earn your keep." "Actually, I noticed your roof leaks, and your porch steps rotted through. If you have tools..." "I don't need charity." "It's not charity. It's payment for shelter. Fair trade." Emma wanted to argue, but her roof did leak. And the smell of that rabbit. "Tools are in the shed, if you can get to it." James nodded. "I'll manage." Sarah woke hungry and bright. She ate her stew, asking questions between bites. Emma found herself answering, telling stories about growing up in town, meeting Thomas at a church social, dreams of a real ranch before life had other plans. Sarah listened with her whole face. When Emma finished, Sarah patted her hand. "I think you're brave." "Why?" "Because you lived when you wanted to die. That's what Daddy says is the hardest thing." Emma's throat closed. She looked at James, pride and pain in his eyes. "Your daddy's right," Emma managed. After breakfast, James went to work. Emma heard him on the roof despite wind and snow. Sarah stayed inside helping Emma mend clothes. The girl's fingers were nimble, stitches neat. "Mama taught me," Sarah said, "before she got too sick." "She taught you well." "Do you think she can see me from heaven?" Emma set down her mending. "Do you think she can?" "Daddy says yes, but sometimes I wonder if she's mad at me." "Why would she be mad?" Sarah's voice dropped. "Because I'm forgetting what she looks like. Not in pictures, but in my head. Her face is getting fuzzy." Emma's heart cracked. She pulled Sarah close and held her tight. "That's not betrayal. That's being human. I bet your mama would rather you remember how she made you feel." "How did she make me feel?" "Safe. Loved. Important." Sarah pulled back, clear blue eyes. "Like you make me feel." Emma had to look away. The kindness was too much. James came in hours later, covered in snow, exhausted. But the leak was fixed, porch repaired, wood chopped and stacked. "You didn't have to do all that," Emma said. "I wanted to." He pulled off his coat. "You gave us shelter. That's worth more than repairs." Emma noticed something fall from his coat pocket. A leather wallet. She picked it up. Inside thick stack of bills, credit cards, and a business card. Colton Ranch Enterprises. James Colton, CEO. Emma stared at it, then at James. He'd frozen watching her. "You're not just some traveler," she said slowly. James's jaw tightened. "No. You're rich." "That's not—" "How rich?" Silence. "How rich, James?" He met her eyes. "Rich enough that people treat me different when they know." Emma felt something cold settle in her stomach. "Is that why you didn't tell me—" "I told you my name. You didn't ask about the rest." "Because I thought you were just a man trying to keep his daughter alive." Emma's voice rose. "Not some millionaire slumming it in my cabin. It's not like that." "Then what's it like, you playing poor, seeing how the other half lives?" Sarah appeared in the doorway, eyes wide. "What's wrong?" "Nothing, baby," James said. "Emma and I are just—" "Emma's angry," Sarah said, small voice. "Because we lied." "We didn't lie," James said. "We didn't tell the truth either." Sarah looked at Emma, tears in those blue eyes. "I'm sorry. Daddy says people act weird when they know we have money, so we don't talk about it." Emma felt her anger crack. She knelt to Sarah's level. "You didn't do anything wrong, sweetheart." "Are you going to make us leave?" Emma looked from Sarah to James. His face was guarded now, waiting for her to throw them out. She stood slowly. "No. Deal was you stay till the storm breaks. Storm's still going." "Emma," James started. "But we're going to talk about this. Later, when she's asleep." James nodded once. Tight. That night they ate rabbit stew in uncomfortable silence. Sarah kept looking between them, worried. After Sarah fell asleep, Emma and James sat by the fire. Not close like before. "Say what you need to say," James said finally. "Why are you really here in Boulder, I mean?" "I told you, my wife's grave. Rich man like you could fly there, hire a helicopter. Instead, you drove your daughter through a blizzard." James was quiet for a long time. "You want the truth?" "That'd be nice." "My ranch, it's successful. Very successful. 50,000 acres, 100 employees. I built it from nothing after Anna died. Threw myself into work so I wouldn't have to feel anything." He stared into the fire. "But Sarah, she's growing up with nannies and tutors and people who say yes to everything because I sign their paychecks. She's 7 and she's already learning to manipulate staff, to expect special treatment. So you brought her on a road trip to teach her humility." "I brought her because she asked to visit her mother's grave, and I realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd said no to her, or the last time we'd done anything normal." He looked at Emma. "When the storm hit, part of me was relieved, because for the first time in 2 years I had an excuse to just be her father. No business calls, no staff, just us." Emma absorbed this. "And then you knocked on my door, and you let us in." James leaned forward. "Do you know what you gave us? Not just shelter. You treated us like people, not a CEO and his poor motherless daughter. Just people. Sarah's been happier these 2 days than I've seen her in months. Because she doesn't know any better. She's 7. No, because you're real with her. You don't baby her. You don't spoil her. You just treat her like she matters without making her feel like she's made of glass. Emma felt something shift again. I'm still angry you didn't tell me. I know. I gave you my last can of beans. I know. My last tea bag. Emma, do you have any idea what it's like? Being so poor that one can of beans is a decision, and you... Her voice cracked. You probably spend more on a single meal than I spend in a month. James flinched. You're right, and I'm sorry. If I could go back, I'd tell you from the start. But I can't. All I can do is ask you to understand why I didn't. Because people treat you different when they know. Yes. How do they treat you? Like a bank account, or a prize, or a problem to solve. He met her eyes. You're the first person in 2 years who looked at me and saw someone worth saving. Emma's anger wavered. I didn't save you. Yes, you did. Maybe not from the storm, but from forgetting what it's like to be treated like a human being. They sat in silence. Wind howled outside. The storm's breaking. Emma said finally, I can feel it. Tomorrow may be the day after roads will clear. I know. And you'll leave. I'll have to. I have a business to run. People depending on me. Of course. Emma stood. I'm going to bed. Emma, wait. What? James stood too. When we leave, come with us. Emma's heart stopped. What? Come to the ranch. Just for a visit. You could... No. Just listen. No. Emma backed away. I know what I am, James. I'm a poor widow in a falling down cabin. You're a millionaire CEO. Those worlds don't mix. They already have. These 3 days were a storm. A moment out of time. When the weather clears, reality comes back. She wrapped her arms around herself. You'll go back to your empire. I'll stay here. That's how it works. That's how it works if we let it. Go to sleep, James. She climbed into her chair and turned her back. Behind her, she heard him move. For a moment, she thought he'd cross the room, force the conversation. But he didn't, and Emma told herself she was relieved. The third day dawned clear and bright. Emma woke to James already packing. Sarah sat on the bed, quiet, watching him with sad eyes. Storm broke, James said without looking at Emma. Roads should be passable by afternoon. Good. Emma, Sarah started. It's okay, sweetheart. Emma forced a smile. Your daddy needs to get you home. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. But I don't want to leave you. Emma's chest ached. She knelt by the bed. I know, but you have a whole life waiting for you. School, friends, your ranch. Will you visit us? Emma glanced at James. His face was carefully blank. Maybe someday. Promise. Emma couldn't promise, so she just hugged Sarah tight and said nothing. James finished packing. He pulled on his coat, the expensive one she could see now, tested the radio. Static, then a voice. Help was coming. I'll repay you, James said. For the food, the shelter. I'll send... Don't. Emma's voice was sharp. Don't you dare send me money. Emma, I need to keep my dignity. That's what I need. She met his eyes. We had a deal. Shelter for labor. You fixed my roof. We're even. James looked like he wanted to argue, but Sarah tugged his hand. Daddy, can I give Emma something from me? James hesitated, then nodded. Sarah ran to his pack and pulled out a small stuffed rabbit. Well-loved. Fur worn thin in places. Mama gave me this, Sarah said, holding it out to Emma. When I was scared. Now I want you to have it, so you won't be alone. Emma's vision blurred. "Sarah, I can't take this." "Please." Sarah pressed it into Emma's hands. "Please, you gave us everything. Let me give you something too." Emma looked at the rabbit, at Sarah's pleading face, at James, who was blinking hard. She took the rabbit, held it close. "Thank you." Outside they heard the sound of an engine. Rescue had arrived. James lifted his pack. Sarah took his hand. They walked to the door. James paused on the threshold, turned back. "You asked me once where home was," he said. "I told you it was the ranch. But these 3 days, this was the first place that felt like home since Anna died." Emma's throat closed. "Safe travels, James." He looked like he wanted to say more. Instead, he just nodded and walked out into the bright, cold morning. Sarah turned at the last second. "I'll never forget you, Emma." Then they were gone. Emma stood in the doorway and watched the rescue truck disappear down the mountain. The cabin felt enormous now, empty. She closed the door, threw the bolt, and sank down against it, clutching Sarah's rabbit, and let herself cry for the first time in 3 years. She cried for Thomas, for her baby. For 3 days when she'd forgotten what it felt like to be lonely. And she cried because she'd lied to Sarah. She would never forget them either. Night fell. Emma sat in her chair, rabbit in her lap, staring at nothing. Then she heard it. A knock at the door. Her heart lurched. She stood slowly, crossed to the door. "Who's there?" "It's me." James's voice. "Can I come in?" Emma threw back the bolt and yanked open the door. James stood there alone. No pack, no daughter, just him. "Where's Sarah?" Emma demanded. "With the rescue crew, heading to Boulder." He stepped inside. "I told them I forgot something, asked them to take Sarah ahead, that I'd catch up." "What did you forget?" James closed the door behind him, turned to face her. "To fight for what I want." Emma's breath caught. "These 3 days," James said, "I felt alive again. Not like a CEO, not like a widower. Just alive. And I know you felt it too." "James, let me finish." He moved closer. "You said our worlds don't mix. Maybe you're right. Maybe this is crazy. But I don't care about rich or poor. I care that my daughter smiled more with you than she has in 2 years. I care that when I'm here I can breathe. I care that you opened your door in a blizzard and changed everything. It was 3 days. 3 days can be enough, if we're brave enough to let them be." Emma shook her head. "What are you asking me?" "Come with me. Not forever. Not right now. Just come meet my world. Let me show you it's not what you think. That there's room in it for someone real." "I can't just leave. This cabin—" "We'll be here when you get back, if you want to come back." James took her hands. "Emma, I'm not asking you to marry me. I'm not asking you to change your whole life. I'm just asking you to take a chance. On me. On Sarah. On the possibility that maybe we're not done yet." Emma looked at their joined hands, at his face, at the hope there. "The rescue crew's waiting," she whispered. "Let them wait. What if it doesn't work? What if I get there and your world eats me alive? Then I'll bring you home. I promise." He squeezed her hands. "But what if it does work? What if this crazy thing is real?" Emma thought about 43 days of silence. Thought about talking to empty chairs and waiting to die. Thought about Sarah's smile and the way this cabin had felt full for 3 perfect days. She thought about the knock that had changed everything. "Okay," she whispered. James's face transformed. "Okay. Okay, I'll come. For a visit. To meet your world. To see if—" She took a shaky breath. "To see if maybe I'm brave enough for this." James pulled her into his arms. Held her so tight she couldn't breathe. She held him back just as hard. "Thank you," he whispered into her hair. Don't thank me yet. I might bolt at the first sign of fancy silverware." He laughed. Actually laughed. "I'll hide all the silverware. We'll eat with our hands." Emma pulled back to look at him. "Sarah's going to lose her mind when she sees me. She's going to scream. Fair warning. I can handle screaming." James touched her face. Gentle, like she was something precious. "You can handle anything." Emma leaned into his touch. Let herself believe just for a moment that maybe he was right. "We should go," she said, "before I change my mind." "Can I have 1 minute?" "For what?" James looked around the cabin. At the chair where Emma had sat watch. At the rug where they'd eaten together. At the bed where Sarah had slept. To remember this, where it started. Emma understood. This cabin had been her prison, her fortress, her hiding place. Now it was the place where life knocked on the door, and she'd been brave enough barely to answer. 1 minute, she agreed. They stood together in the small space, holding hands, memorizing. Then Emma grabbed her coat, packed a small bag, took one last look at the home she'd built from grief, and walked out the door with a millionaire cowboy who'd taught her that sometimes the scariest thing isn't opening the door. It's walking through it. The rescue truck's headlights appeared through the trees as they hiked down. "Fair warning," James said. "When Sarah sees you, she's going to ask if you're coming to live with us forever." "What should I tell her?" "Tell her the truth. That you're coming to visit. That we're seeing where this goes. That some things can't be rushed." Emma nodded. Then, James. "Yeah. What if I fall in love with your world and hate you?" He grinned. "Then at least you'll have discovered you can love something again. I'll count that as a win." They reached the truck. The driver, a weathered man named Pete, raised his eyebrows when he saw Emma. "Found what you forgot?" Pete asked James. "Yeah." James squeezed Emma's hand. "Found exactly what I was looking for." They climbed into the truck bed, and as Pete drove them down the mountain toward Boulder, toward Sarah, toward whatever came next, Emma looked back once at her cabin. Small and dark and empty now, but not abandoned. Just waiting. Because Emma Hale was done hiding. Sarah's scream could have shattered glass. The little girl launched herself out of the rescue truck before it fully stopped, nearly taking Pete down with her. She sprinted across the snowy ground and hit Emma like a missile. You came. Daddy said you might, but I didn't believe him. But you're here." Emma stumbled backward, caught off guard by the force of 7-year-old joy. Her arms came around Sarah, automatically holding tight, while the girl sobbed into her coat. "I'm here," Emma said. Her voice cracked. "I'm here, sweetheart." James climbed out of the truck bed, grinning like a fool. Pete stood by his door, shaking his head. "You Coltons are something else," Pete muttered. "Never a simple rescue with your family." "Put it on my tab," James said. "You don't have a tab. You own half the county." Emma's head snapped up. "Half the county?" James's grin faltered. "That's an exaggeration." "Quarter of the county," Pete corrected. "Give or take." Emma felt Sarah pull back to look at her. "Are you mad again?" "I'm not mad. I'm just—" Emma looked at James. "Processing." "We can process in Boulder," James said quickly. "It's another hour to town. Pete's got to get back before dark." They climbed into the truck, Sarah wedged between Emma and James, refusing to let go of Emma's hand. The girl chattered the entire ride, telling Emma about the rescue crew, and how worried she'd been, and how she'd prayed Emma would change her mind. Emma barely heard her. She was too busy watching the landscape change as they descended. The wild mountain giving way to foothills, then ranch land. Miles and miles of fence line. "That's ours," Sarah said, pointing to a particularly endless stretch. "That's Colton land." Emma's stomach dropped. The fences went on forever. She'd known James was rich, but seeing it, the sheer scale of what he owned made her feel small in a way the mountain never had. They reached Boulder as the sun set. Pete dropped them at a hotel downtown. Not just any hotel. the kind with a doorman and marble floors and chandeliers that probably cost more than Emma's entire cabin. "I keep a suite here," James explained as they walked inside, "for when we visit Anna." The lobby went quiet when they entered. Every eye turned to James. The staff straightened. A manager materialized out of nowhere. "Mr. Colton? We didn't know you were coming. Let me get your usual suite ready." "Already done, I'm sure," James said. His voice had changed. Cooler, more commanding. "We'll need an additional room, connected to the suite." "Of course. And will you be dining with us tonight?" "We'll order room service." "Excellent. I'll have menus sent up immediately." The manager snapped his fingers. Bellhops appeared. James hadn't brought luggage, but they materialized anyway, ready to carry nothing if it meant serving a Colton. Emma felt everyone's eyes on her worn coat and scuffed boots and wind-burned face. She looked exactly like what she was, a poor mountain woman who didn't belong here. Sarah grabbed her hand tighter. "Come on. Our rooms are on the top floor." The elevator was mirrored. Emma caught her reflection and flinched. She looked half wild, hair tangled, face gaunt. Next to James in his expensive coat and Sarah in her good boots, Emma looked like someone they'd scraped off the street. The suite was bigger than her cabin, by a lot. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum. A living area that could fit Emma's entire home inside it. "Your room's through here," James said, showing Emma to a connected bedroom. "Private bath. Fresh clothes in the closet. I called ahead, told them to stock it with basics. If nothing fits, we'll get you something else." Emma stepped into the bedroom. The bed alone was bigger than any bed she'd ever seen. The bathroom had a tub you could swim in. "This is too much," she said. "It's just a hotel room." "James, this isn't just a hotel room. This is—" She gestured helplessly. "I don't even know what this is." Sarah appeared in the doorway. "It's nice, right? We stay here every year. The bathtub has jets." "Jets," Emma repeated faintly. "Sarah, go wash up for dinner," James said. "Give Emma a minute." "But—" "Go on, baby." Sarah left reluctantly. James closed the door behind her and turned to Emma. "You're overwhelmed. That's one word for it. What's another word?" Emma sank onto the edge of the massive bed. "Terrified. I'm terrified, James. I don't know how to be in this world. I don't know which fork to use or how to talk to people who have managers and bellhops and—" Her voice rose. "You own a quarter of the county. A quarter—" "Pete exaggerates." "Does he?" James was quiet. "No." Emma put her head in her hands. "What am I doing here?" She felt the bed dip as James sat beside her. Not touching, just close. "You're being brave," he said quietly. "You're taking a chance on something new." "I don't feel brave. I feel like I'm about to throw up." "That's what brave feels like. If you weren't scared, it wouldn't take courage." Emma looked at him. "Do you ever get scared?" "Every day. When Anna died, I threw myself into building the ranch because I was terrified of feeling anything. When Sarah asks about her mother, I'm terrified of saying the wrong thing. And when you opened your door 3 nights ago—" He stopped. "I was terrified you'd see through me. See that under all this, I'm just a man who's been hiding as hard as you have." "You don't hide. You run an empire." "Same thing, different mountain." Emma wanted to argue, but she saw the truth in his eyes. They'd both been running, just in opposite directions. "I need a bath," she said finally. "A long one, in that ridiculous tub with jets." James smiled. "Take your time. I'll order dinner. Anything you don't eat." "I eat whatever doesn't eat me first." He laughed and stood, paused at the door. "Emma, thank you for coming. I know this is hard." "You're welcome, I think." After he left, Emma explored the bathroom, found soaps that smelled like flowers she couldn't name, shampoo in bottles too pretty to open. She ran the bath and climbed in, and the hot water felt like a kind of resurrection. She'd bathed in a tin tub by her stove for 3 years. This was something else entirely. This was luxury she'd forgotten existed. She scrubbed 3 years of mountain off her skin and tried not to think about how far she was from home. When she finally emerged, wrapped in a robe softer than anything she'd ever owned, she found clothes laid out on the bed. Jeans that looked like they might fit. A sweater in dark blue. Undergarments still in packages. Emma dressed slowly. Everything fit. Of course it did. James had probably guessed her sizes from watching her move around the cabin. She found them in the living area. Sarah was curled up on the couch and James was on the phone. His voice had that cool command again. "I don't care what Anderson says. The water rights are non-negotiable. We had a deal." Pause. "Then tell him the deal's off. We'll find another." He saw Emma and his face softened. "I have to go. Handle it." He hung up. "Work?" Emma asked. "Always. Sorry." "Don't apologize. I'm the one crashing your business trip." "You're not crashing anything." James stood. "You look better." "How was the bath?" "Life-changing. I may never leave that tub." Sarah giggled. "You can't live in a bathtub." "Watch me." Dinner arrived more food than 3 people could possibly eat. Steak and pasta and vegetables Emma couldn't name. Sarah ate like she'd been starving. Emma picked at her plate, too nervous to have much appetite. "You need to eat," James said quietly. "I'm eating." "You're moving food around." Emma set down her fork. "I'm just tired." It wasn't a lie. Exhaustion was hitting her in waves. The bath, the warmth, the sheer overwhelm of the day, it was catching up. "Why don't you get some sleep?" James suggested. "Tomorrow's going to be long." "Why? What's tomorrow?" "We visit Anna's grave, if you're up for it. You don't have to come." "I'll come," Emma said. She owed him that much. And she was curious about the woman who'd loved him first. Sarah was already falling asleep on the couch. James carried her to her room. There was a second bedroom Emma hadn't even seen, and came back to find Emma standing at the window looking out at the city lights. "I can see why you stay here," Emma said. "It's beautiful." "It's not the mountain." "No. But it's not trying to kill you either." James came to stand beside her. "The mountain wasn't trying to kill you. It was trying to make you strong enough to leave." Emma looked at him. "That's a nice thought." "It's the truth. You survived up there because you're tougher than you think. Now you're here, still surviving." "Barely." "Still counts." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Emma said, "Tell me about her. Anna." James's jaw tightened. "Why?" "Because she was your wife, Sarah's mother, and because if I'm going to be in your lives even for a visit, I should know who I'm following." "You're not following anyone." "James." He sighed and moved to the couch, sat down heavily. Emma followed, curling into the opposite corner. "Anna was..." James stared at nothing. "She was light. That's the best way I can describe it. She walked into a room and people smiled. Not because she was beautiful, though she was, but because she made everything feel possible." "How'd you meet?" "College. I was studying business. She was studying art. We had exactly nothing in common." He smiled faintly. "She thought I was uptight. I thought she was flighty. Then we got paired for a project, and I realized she was the smartest person I'd ever met. Just smart in different ways." "And you fell in love?" "Like a tree falling. Slow then, all at once, then crash." He looked at Emma. "We got married young. 2 young, people said. Built the ranch together. She handled the creative side, branding, aesthetics, community relations. I handled numbers. We were a team. Then Sarah came. And Anna said she'd never been happier. She was one of those women who was made to be a mother. Patient. Creative. She could turn a trip to the grocery store into an adventure." His voice cracked. "When she got sick, she fought so hard. Not for herself, for Sarah. She wanted to see her grow up. Emma felt tears prick her eyes. I'm sorry she didn't get to. Me too. Every day. James rubbed his face. After she died, I didn't know how to be a father and a CEO and a widower all at once. So I just worked. Hired nannies. Made money. Built the empire bigger because at least that was something I could control. And Sarah? Sarah's amazing, resilient, but she's growing up in a world where people treat her like a princess because of my money. And I don't know how to fix that without taking away everything I built. Emma understood. She'd seen it in Sarah, that precociousness that came from being around adults too much, the good manners that were almost too good. She's still a kid, Emma said. She still believes in mountain angels and bathtub houses. You haven't lost her yet. But I could. So don't let it happen. Be present. Say no sometimes. Let her be bored. Let her fail. Emma leaned forward. You know what Sarah said to me at the cabin when she was helping me mend? She said it was the most fun she'd had in forever. Mending. With a needle and thread. James looked stricken. I've given her everything, and she's happiest mending in a cabin. Not everything. You've given her stuff. She wants you. I'm here. I'm always here. Are you? Or are you on the phone with Anderson about water rights? That landed. James flinched. I have responsibilities. I know. I'm not saying you don't. But maybe. Emma chose her words carefully. Maybe the empire doesn't need to be quite so big if it means you get to actually be with your daughter. I built this for her, so she'd never want for anything. She doesn't want things, James. She wants you. They sat in heavy silence. Outside, the city sparkled like scattered stars. Finally, James said, You're right. I know. You're also terrifying. Good. Someone needs to terrify you occasionally. He laughed, a real laugh, not the polite ones he gave his staff. Thank you for being honest. Someone has to be. James stood and stretched. I should let you sleep. Tomorrow's going to be emotional. Emma stood too. At the door to her room, she paused. James, I'm glad you came back for me. Me too. She almost made it inside. Then his voice stopped her. Anna would have liked you. Emma turned. How do you know? Because she always said I needed someone who'd call me on my bullshit. And you've done that more in 3 days than anyone has in 2 years. Emma smiled. Sounds like she was smart. The smartest. Emma went to her room and climbed into the enormous bed. She expected to lie awake, too wired to sleep. Instead, she was out in minutes, dreamless and deep. She woke to Sarah jumping on her bed. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Daddy says we're going to see Mama today, and then we can go anywhere you want. Emma groaned and pulled a pillow over her face. What time is it? 7. That's sleeping in. At home, I wake up at 6 for tutoring. Tutoring at 6 in the morning should be illegal. Sarah giggled and yanked the pillow away. Come on, Daddy ordered breakfast. Emma let herself be dragged to the living area, where James sat with coffee and a spread of food that could feed an army. Morning, he said. He looked tired, like maybe he hadn't slept much. Morning. Emma poured herself coffee and sat. You okay? Fine, just thinking. About what you said. About being present. He looked at Sarah, who was piling pancakes onto her plate. About doing better. Emma squeezed his hand once, quick, then let go before Sarah noticed. They ate breakfast, and Emma tried not to think about what was coming. Visiting the grave of James's dead wife felt invasive somehow, like she was intruding on something sacred. But when they pulled up to the cemetery, James drove a truck that probably cost more than most houses. Emma understood why he'd wanted her there. This wasn't about Anna. This was about him needing witnesses, needing to not be alone with his grief for once. The grave was simple, elegant. Anna Marie Colton, beloved wife and mother, gone too soon. Fresh flowers sat in the vase from last year's visit, Emma guessed. James knelt and replaced them with new ones he'd bought that morning. Sarah stood back, holding Emma's hand tight. "I don't like it here," Sarah whispered. "It makes Daddy sad." "I know, sweetheart." "Do you think Mama can really hear him when he talks to her?" Emma looked at the gravestone. At James kneeling there, his shoulders bent under invisible weight. "I think she can hear him in his heart, and that's what matters." Sarah seemed to accept this. She let go of Emma's hand and walked to her father, knelt beside him, said something Emma couldn't hear. James put his arm around his daughter. They stayed like that for a long time, father and daughter grieving together. Emma stayed back, giving them space. She thought about Thomas's grave in the valley, about how she'd never visited, about how maybe that was its own kind of conversation, the choosing to stay away. Finally, James and Sarah stood. They walked back to Emma hand in hand. "Thank you for coming," James said. His eyes were red. "Of course." "Daddy told Mama about you," Sarah said. "About how you saved us." Emma's throat tightened. "I didn't save anyone." "Yes, you did." James's voice was firm. "You saved us from freezing, and maybe from forgetting how to trust people." They drove back into town in silence. Sarah fell asleep in the back seat, emotionally exhausted. James drove with one hand, the other gripping the wheel tight. "She was 34, James said suddenly. "When she died, 34. That's too young." "Yes. I'm 42 now. I've lived 8 more years than she got. And sometimes that feels like a betrayal, like I should have stopped too. But you didn't. Because of Sarah." "Because of Sarah." He glanced in the rearview mirror at his sleeping daughter. "Some days that's enough, some days it's not. Today it's enough, because you're here, because for the first time in 2 years visiting that grave didn't feel like drowning." Emma didn't know what to say to that, so she just reached over and took his hand. He held on like she was an anchor. They got back to the hotel, and Sarah woke up hungry. James suggested lunch somewhere nice, but Emma shook her head. "Can we just walk? Find someplace normal, I need air." They ended up at a diner 3 blocks from the hotel. Red vinyl booths and coffee that tasted like it had been sitting since morning. Perfect. Sarah ordered a grilled cheese. James got a burger. Emma asked for soup and bread. "You need more than soup," James said. "I need what I need." The waitress, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes, brought their food and didn't treat James any different than the construction workers at the counter. Emma watched him relax into the anonymity, saw him become just a dad having lunch with his kid. "This is nice," Sarah said, cheese stretching from her sandwich. "I like places like this." "Better than the hotel restaurant?" James asked. "Way better. The hotel restaurant makes me sit up straight and use my quiet voice." "What's wrong with sitting up straight?" "Nothing. But sometimes I want to slouch." James laughed. "Fair enough." After lunch, they walked downtown. Sarah wanted to see toy stores. James indulged her, but Emma noticed he didn't buy her everything she asked for. Progress. In one store, Sarah found a stuffed wolf and held it up to Emma. "Look, it's like the wolves from the mountain." Emma took the wolf and examined it. "This one's friendlier." "Can I get it?" "Please." James looked at Emma, some silent question passing between them. Emma knelt to Sarah's level. "Do you have money saved?" Sarah blinked. "What? Money? From allowance or chores? Do you have any saved?" I don't do chores. We have people for that." "Then no wolf. Not today." Sarah's face fell. She looked at her father, waiting for him to overrule Emma. James cleared his throat. "Emma's right. If you want the wolf, you need to earn it." "But..." "No buts. We'll talk about chores when we get home. Real chores. Then you can save up and buy it yourself." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. For a moment, Emma thought the girl would throw a tantrum. Instead, Sarah carefully put the wolf back on the shelf. "Okay," she said quietly. "I'll wait." Emma felt her heart swell. I'm proud of you, sweetheart. Really? Really. Waiting for something makes it mean more when you finally get it. They left the store and continued walking. Sarah was quiet for a bit, processing. Then she slipped her hand into Emma's. Will you teach me chores at the ranch? Emma looked at James. He nodded slightly. If I come to the ranch, yes, I'll teach you. When will you come? I don't know yet. Soon. Maybe. Sarah seemed satisfied with this. They walked back to the hotel as the sun started to set. In the lobby, the manager intercepted them. Mr. Colton, a message for you. Urgent, apparently. James took the folded paper and read it. His jaw tightened. Problem? Emma asked. Work. There's an issue with one of the suppliers. I need to make some calls. Do what you need to do. Back in the suite, James disappeared into his room with his phone. Emma could hear his voice through the door, sharp, commanding, handling whatever crisis had emerged. Sarah curled up next to Emma on the couch. Daddy works a lot. He does. Do you think he likes working more than being with me? Emma pulled Sarah close. No, sweetheart. I think he works so hard because he loves you so much. He wants to give you everything. But I don't want everything. I just want him. Have you told him that? Sarah shook her head. He looks so tired all the time. I don't want to make it worse. Emma's heart broke a little. Sarah, listen to me. Your daddy needs to hear what you just said. He thinks he's doing the right thing by working so much, but if you don't tell him what you really need, he'll never know. What if he gets mad? He won't get mad. He might be sad, but not mad. Never at you. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then, will you be there when I tell him? If you want me to be. I do. James emerged an hour later looking exhausted and frustrated. Everything okay? Emma asked. Supplier trying to renegotiate terms at the last minute. Thinks he can leverage me because we're on a deadline. James ran a hand through his hair. I may need to fly back to the ranch tomorrow to handle it in person. Daddy, Sarah said suddenly. Can I talk to you? Of course, baby. What's up? Sarah looked at Emma for courage. Emma nodded. I don't want you to work so much, Sarah said in a rush. I know you think you need to, but I don't need all the stuff. I just need you. James froze. What? I'm happy with less stuff if it means you're around more. I liked the cabin. I liked the diner. I liked just being together without phones and meetings. Tears spilled down Sarah's cheeks. I miss you even when you're right there. James looked like he'd been punched. He crossed to Sarah and pulled her into his arms. I'm sorry, he said, voice thick. I'm so sorry. I thought I was doing what was best. I know. But I just want my daddy. You have me. I promise. Starting right now, you have me. Emma stood quietly and slipped into her room, giving them privacy. She pressed her back against the closed door and let out a breath she hadn't known she was holding. Through the door, she heard James talking softly to Sarah, making promises, setting boundaries with work, actually listening to his daughter for what sounded like the first time in a long time. Emma looked around the luxurious room and felt the strangest sensation, like maybe she'd done something that mattered. Like maybe coming here wasn't a mistake after all. An hour later, James knocked on her door. Come in. He entered, looking simultaneously lighter and more troubled. Thank you. I didn't do anything? You gave my daughter the courage to tell me the truth. That's everything. He sat on the edge of her bed. I canceled the meeting tomorrow. Told them to handle it without me. We're staying in Boulder an extra day. James, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Sarah was right. I've been choosing work over her, over life. And I'm done. He met Emma's eyes. I'm done hiding too. What does that mean? It means tomorrow I want to show you something, both of you. Something I haven't shared with anyone since Anna died. What is it? You'll see. He stood. Get some rest. Tomorrow's important. After he left, Emma lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. 3 days ago, she'd been alone on a mountain, waiting to die. Now she was in a hotel suite, tangled up in the lives of a millionaire cowboy and his daughter. Life was strange. She fell asleep thinking about wolves and rabbits and doors opening in storms. Tomorrow she'd discover what James wanted to show her. Tomorrow, things would change again. They always did. Morning came with Sarah bouncing on Emma's bed again, but this time, James was right behind her, looking more rested than Emma had seen him. Up and at 'em, he said. We've got a drive ahead of us. Where are we going? Emma asked, still groggy. You'll see. Wear something comfortable. An hour later, they were in James's truck, heading west out of Boulder. Sarah sat between them, chattering about everything and nothing. James drove with the windows down, letting mountain air fill the cab. They drove for 90 minutes past ranches and farmland, into territory that got wilder the farther they went. Finally, James turned onto a dirt road marked only by a wooden post with faded numbers. This is still your land? Emma asked, watching fence line roll past. Was. Sold it 5 years ago to a conservation trust. But I kept access rights. He glanced at her. Anna and I found this place when we were first married, before Sarah, before the empire, when it was just us and a dream. The road ended at a small clearing. Beyond it, a creek ran fast and clear, and tucked against the hillside sat a cabin. Not like Emma's mountain shack, this was a real cabin well built with a stone chimney and a porch that wrapped around 2 sides. We built it ourselves, James said, climbing out of the truck. Took us 2 summers. Anna did most of the design, I did the heavy lifting. Sarah ran ahead, clearly familiar with the place. Emma followed more slowly, taking it in. You kept it, she said, after she died. Couldn't sell it. Couldn't come back to it either. Haven't been here since the funeral. James shoved his hands in his pockets. But last night, after Sarah and I talked, I realized I've been avoiding everything that reminds me of being happy. Like if I let myself remember the good times, it'll hurt more. Does it hurt more? Yeah. But it also reminds me I was happy once, that I can be again. Emma walked to the porch. The wood was weathered but solid. Through the window she could see furniture covered in sheets waiting. Can we go in? She asked. James produced a key and unlocked the door. It stuck swollen from lack of use but finally gave. Inside smelled like dust and memories. Emma saw what it had been immediately. A home. Not a house. A home. Every detail spoke of love. The handmade curtains, the river stones around the fireplace, the bookshelf built into the wall. Sarah ran straight to a chest in the corner and pulled out a quilt. Mama made this, she said, holding it up for Emma. See, each square is different. Emma took the quilt carefully. Each square was indeed unique, some embroidered, some appliqued, some simple patchwork. The work of someone who loved creating beauty. It's stunning, Emma said. She made it the summer before Sarah was born, James said from the doorway. Stayed up late every night, sewing by lamplight. Said she wanted Sarah wrapped in love from day one. Emma ran her fingers over the stitches. They were imperfect in places human. Real. The opposite of the hotel suite's sterile luxury. Why are you showing me this? Emma asked quietly. James came into the room. Because I wanted you to know who I was before I became the CEO. Before the empire. I was just a man who loved his wife and built her a cabin in the woods. And you want to be that man again? I want to remember that man existed. That he's still in here somewhere under all the business deals and quarterly reports. Sarah had found more treasures in the chest photo albums, small toys, a journal with a leather cover. She spread them on the floor, creating a museum of memory. Can we stay here? Sarah asked suddenly. Just for today, like a picnic. James looked at Emma. What do you think? Emma looked around the cabin, at the dust motes dancing in sunlight, at Sarah surrounded by her mother's things, at James, vulnerable in a way he never was in suits and boardrooms. I think that sounds perfect. They spent the day bringing the cabin back to life. James opened windows, aired out rooms, got the water running from the well. Emma swept and dusted, while Sarah explored every corner, rediscovering childhood memories she'd been too young to fully form. They found a grill on the back porch, and James drove into the nearest town 20 minutes away for supplies. He came back with steaks, vegetables, and marshmallows for Sarah. "When's the last time you grilled?" Emma asked, watching him struggle with the charcoal. "Anna's last birthday, 3 years ago." He got the fire going and stepped back satisfied. "She always said I made the fire too hot, burned everything on the outside raw in the middle." "Did you?" "Every single time." Emma laughed. "Let me help." They cooked together. Emma adjusting James's too hot fire, James learning to be patient. Sarah collected wildflowers and put them in a jar on the porch table. When they finally sat down to eat, the sun was setting behind the mountains, painting everything gold. "This is the best day," Sarah announced through a mouthful of steak. "Better than the hotel?" James asked. "Way better. The hotel is pretty, but it's not real." "What makes something real?" Emma asked. Sarah thought about it. "When people are just people, not trying to be fancy or perfect, just real." Emma met James's eyes across the table. He smiled a real smile, not the polite CEO version. After dinner, James built a fire in the stone pit out front. They roasted marshmallows, Sarah getting more on her face than in her mouth. The stars came out brighter than Emma had seen since leaving the mountain. "I forgot how dark it gets out here," James said, staring up. "In town, you can't see half these stars." "That's what I miss most," Emma admitted. "The mountain had terrible winters, and no neighbors and wolves at the door. But the stars," she trailed off, "made it worth it," James finished. "Sometimes." Sarah had fallen asleep against Emma's shoulder, sticky with marshmallow and exhausted from playing. Emma stroked her hair absently, the gesture automatic now. "She's attached to you," James said quietly. "In case you hadn't noticed." "I noticed." "That scare you?" "Terrifies me." Emma looked down at Sarah's peaceful face. "What happens when I go back to the mountain, when this visit ends? Does it have to end?" Emma's breath caught. "James." "I'm not asking you to marry me, not yet." He poked the fire with a stick. "But I'm asking you to consider staying, not in the hotel, not in the main house at the ranch, but maybe here." Emma stared at him. "Here, in this cabin. It's just sitting empty, has been for years. You could—" He stopped, choosing words carefully. "You could have space, your own space. Time to figure out if this world is one you can live in. And you and Sarah, we're 20 minutes away, close enough to see each other, far enough that you're not drowning in the Colton Empire every second." He met her eyes. "I'm not trying to trap you. I'm trying to give you an option that's not all or nothing." Emma's mind raced. The cabin was beautiful, isolated but not dangerously so. And the thought of going back to her mountain shack, back to the silence and the waiting to die? "What would I do here? I can't just sit around." "Whatever you want. Anna had a studio out back. She did pottery and painting. You could use it. Or not. You could help Sarah with chores, teach her the things she's not learning from nannies. You could—" He laughed. "I don't know. I'm making this up as I go." "That's obvious. But is it crazy? Tell me honestly." Emma looked up at the stars, thought about her mountain cabin sitting empty and cold, thought about 43 days of silence stretching into forever. "It's crazy," she said finally. "But maybe I'm tired of being careful." James's face transformed. "Yeah?" "Yeah, but I have conditions." "Name them." "I pay rent. I don't care if this place is sitting empty. I won't be a charity case." "Deal. What else?" "I go back to my cabin first, pack properly, say goodbye to the mountain on my terms." I'll drive you up tomorrow. And Emma paused. I need you to understand this might not work. I might try your world for a month and realize I hate it, that I can't breathe here. Then you go back to the mountain, no hard feelings. You say that now? I mean it now. James held her gaze. Emma, I'm not trying to change you. I'm just trying to give us a chance to see what this could be without the pressure of all or nothing. Sarah stirred against Emma's shoulder, mumbling in her sleep. Emma shifted to hold her more comfortably. Okay, Emma said softly. Okay, I'll try. James's smile could have lit the whole valley. Thank you. They sat in comfortable silence after that, watching the fire burn down to coals. When Sarah woke up groggy and confused, they carried her inside and put her to bed in what had been her parents' room. Emma took the small bedroom that had been meant for a nursery but never used. James sat up on the couch. Emma lay in the narrow bed and listened to the creek running outside the window. It sounded like her mountain stream, but gentler, less angry. She thought about what she'd just agreed to. Moving into Anna's cabin. Becoming part of James and Sarah's life in some undefined way. It was insane. But staying on the mountain, waiting to die, that had been insane too. At least this was insane with company. They spent another day at the cabin before heading back to Boulder. James called his office and extended his trip another week. Emma heard his assistant's shock through the phone. A week, sir, you have the cattle auction and the board meeting and reschedule them. But reschedule them. James's voice had that steel edge. I pay you to handle these things. Handle them. He hung up and caught Emma watching. What? Nothing. Just noticing you're actually taking time off. Trying to. Old habits die hard. They drove back to Boulder, and Emma packed the few things she'd accumulated at the hotel. The clothes James had bought, the toiletries she'd barely used. It all fit in a small bag. The drive up to Emma's mountain cabin took 3 hours. The roads were clear now, the storm just a memory in melting snow. When they pulled up to her place, Emma felt a strange distance, like the cabin belonged to someone else, someone she used to be. You okay? James asked. Fine, just weird being back. Sarah bounded out of the truck and ran to the cabin door. It's so small. You lived here all alone. For 3 years. Weren't you lonely? Emma unlocked the door. The cabin smelled stale, cold, like abandonment. Yes, I was very lonely. She packed quickly clothes books, Thomas's pocket watch, her mother's china that had survived everything else, the wedding photo in the cracked frame. She took the quilt from the bed and the shotgun from above the door. That everything? James asked, loading boxes into his truck. Emma looked around the cabin one last time. At the marks on the wall where she'd counted days. At the chair where she'd slept with a gun in her lap. At the stove where she'd rationed her last can of beans. That's everything that matters. You're not locking it. Anyone desperate enough to rob this place needs it more than I do. They drove away, and Emma didn't look back. Sarah chattered the whole way down the mountain, excited to show Emma the ranch. James drove carefully, one hand on the wheel, the other reaching over to squeeze Emma's hand once. The ranch appeared gradually. First fence line, then pastures with cattle, then outbuildings, then finally the main house rising from the valley like something out of a magazine. Emma's stomach dropped. That's your house. That's the main house, where Sarah and I live, where the staff quarters are, where... He saw her face. It's too much. It's a mansion, James. You live in a mansion. It's a ranch house, just a big one. Sarah giggled. It's pretty big, Daddy. They drove past the main house, Emma trying not to stare at the sheer scale of it, and continued down a winding road. 20 minutes later, they reached the cabin. Anna's cabin. Emma's cabin now, apparently. In daylight, with more time to observe, Emma saw details she'd missed before. The careful craftsmanship. the way it sat perfectly in the landscape like it had grown there naturally. The vegetable garden overgrown but salvageable. The studio out back, windows dusty but intact. "What do you think?" James asked as they climbed out. "I think Anna had good taste." "She did." He grabbed Emma's boxes. "Let me help you get settled." They spent the afternoon making the cabin livable. James got the electricity running solar panels on the roof batteries in the shed. Emma cleaned and organized while Sarah explored every corner. "There's a loft," Sarah called from above. "With a window seat. Anna's reading spot," James said. "She'd spend hours up there with a book." Emma climbed the ladder to look. The loft was small but cozy with cushions on the window seat and built-in bookshelves. Sarah had already claimed it curled up in the window. "Can I come visit you here?" Sarah asked. "Of course, whenever you want." "Every day," Emma laughed. "Let's start with a few times a week." By evening, the cabin felt like home. Emma's things mixed with Anna's, creating something new. James made a fire and they sat on the porch watching the sun set behind the hills. "The staff is going to talk," James said, "about you being here. Let them talk. They'll make assumptions. About us. Are they wrong?" James looked at her. "What are we doing here, Emma? Really?" Emma thought about it. "Figuring it out, day by day." "That's not much of a plan." "I'm not much of a planner." Sarah came running from where she'd been chasing fireflies. "Emma, will you read me a story before bed? I don't have any children's books." "I brought some." Sarah ran to James's truck and returned with an armful. "Daddy always brings them, but he falls asleep before finishing." "I do not," James protested. "You do too. You start snoring on page 3. Emma laughed and took Sarah inside. They curled up in the window seat in the loft, and Emma read about princesses and dragons and happy endings. Sarah fell asleep halfway through, just like James apparently did. Emma carried her down the ladder. The girl was heavier than she looked, and found James had made up the spare bedroom for her. "She can sleep at the main house," James offered. "Let her stay, just tonight." James nodded. "I should head back, get you settled." At the door he paused. "Emma." "Yeah." "Thank you for trying. Thank you for giving me space to try." He smiled and left his truck, disappearing down the dark road. Emma locked the door and stood in her new home, listening to Sarah breathe softly in the next room. This was crazy. She'd known these people for less than a week. And here she was, living in a dead woman's cabin, babysitting a millionaire's daughter, trying on a new life like a borrowed coat. But when she climbed into bed, Anna's bed, she supposed, though it felt like hers now, Emma slept better than she had in years. Morning brought James back with breakfast and a problem. "The staff wants to meet you," he said, setting bags of food on the kitchen table. "Word spread that someone's living in Anna's cabin. They're curious." "Curious or suspicious?" "Both." Emma poured coffee. "Do I have to meet them?" "Eventually, but I can hold them off if you're not ready." "I'm not ready." "Then they can wait." Sarah woke up and breakfast became chaos. The girl wanted to help cook but mostly made messes. Emma found herself laughing, really laughing, while scraping burned eggs off a pan. "I'm not a good cook," Sarah admitted. "Then we'll learn together." "Really? You'll teach me?" "If you want." Sarah threw her arms around Emma's waist. "I want everything. I want to learn cooking and chores and how to mend things and how to not be spoiled." "You're not spoiled." "Daddy says I am. A little bit." James coughed. "I said you were privileged. That's different." "What's privileged mean?" Sarah asked. "It means you have things other people don't. And that's not bad, but you need to understand it, appreciate it, not take it for granted." Sarah thought about this. Like Emma's cabin. It's small, but she appreciated it. Exactly like that. After breakfast, James had to leave. Actual work emergency, this time something about a fence down and cattle loose. He promised to be back by dinner. Emma and Sarah spent the day exploring. They walked the property, finding a pond Sarah had forgotten about and a grove of aspens that whispered in the wind. They picked wildflowers and started a garden plan. They talked about everything and nothing. "Do you miss your husband?" Sarah asked at one point. "Every day." "Does it get easier?" "No, but you get stronger. You learn to carry it." "Daddy says the same thing about Mama." "Your daddy's right." That evening, James returned looking exhausted and dirty. He'd been out all day fixing fences, moving cattle, doing the physical work he usually left to hired hands. "You look like hell," Emma said. "Feel like it too." He sank into a porch chair. "But the cattle are back where they belong." "You didn't have to do it yourself." "I wanted to. Needed to remember what actual work feels like." He flexed his hands. "I'm going to be sore tomorrow." Emma brought him water and a plate of the dinner she'd made. Nothing fancy, just stew from supplies James had stocked the cabin with. But he ate like it was the best meal he'd ever had. Sarah had fallen asleep on the couch, exhausted from the day. James carried her to the truck, planning to take her back to the main house. "She can stay again," Emma offered, "if you don't mind the drive in the morning." "You sure?" "I like having her here." James brought Sarah back inside and settled her in the spare room. At the door he hesitated. "There's a charity gala next week, at the ranch. Big fundraiser Anna started before she died. I kept it going in her memory." "Sounds fancy." "It's very fancy. 500 people, catered dinner, dancing, the whole thing." Emma's stomach dropped. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because people know someone's staying in Anna's cabin, and they're going to ask about you, and I need to know." He met her eyes. "Do you want to come? As my guest? To a gala with 500 rich people?" "Yes." "James, I don't even own a dress." "We can get you a dress." "That's not the point. I don't belong at something like that." "Neither do I really. But I show up anyway." He took her hand. "You don't have to decide now. Think about it." After he left, Emma sat on the porch and tried to imagine herself at a gala. Tried to picture walking into a room full of wealthy ranchers and business people and socialites. All of them wondering who she was, why she was living in Anna's cabin, what her relationship with James actually was. The thought made her want to run back to the mountain, but she'd promised to try. And try meant uncomfortable situations. It meant pushing past fear. She had a week to decide, a week to figure out if she could be brave one more time. The days fell into a rhythm. Sarah visited every afternoon after her tutoring. Emma taught her to cook, to clean, to do basic repairs. They worked on the garden, planted vegetables, talked about life. James came most evenings, sometimes staying for dinner, sometimes just checking in. They didn't talk about the gala again. Didn't talk about what they were becoming. Just existed together in the space between friendship and something more. The ranch staff kept their distance, but Emma felt their eyes. Saw them watching from far pastures when she and Sarah walked. Heard their whispers when James's truck was parked outside her cabin after dark. 5 days before the gala, a woman showed up at Emma's door. She was maybe 60, with silver hair and a face that had earned its wrinkles. She wore work clothes and boots that had seen real use. "You, Emma?" the woman asked. "Who's asking?" "Maria Santos, head housekeeper at the main house. Worked for Mr. James 15 years. Knew Mrs. Anna since she arrived as a bride." Emma's defenses went up. "What can I do for you? Can I come in?" Emma hesitated, then stepped aside. Maria entered and looked around the cabin with soft eyes. She loved this place, Maria said. Used to bring baby Sarah here when Mr. James was working too much. Said it reminded her what they were building everything for. "It's a beautiful cabin." "It is." Maria turned to face Emma. "The staff is talking. About you. About what you're doing here." "I'm living here. James offered. I accepted." "They think you're trying to replace Mrs. Anna. Take her place." Emma's jaw tightened. I'm not trying to replace anyone. I know that. I've been watching you with little Sarah, with Mr. James. You're not calculating. You're just—" Maria paused. "You're just lonely people finding each other." "Then why are you here?" "Because Mr. James wants you to come to the gala. And if you go, the staff will judge you. The guests will judge you. They'll pick apart everything you wear, say, do." Maria's eyes were kind but firm. "And I need to know if you can handle that." Emma thought about it. "Honestly, I don't know." "At least you're honest." Maria moved to the door, then paused. Mrs. Anna used to say the bravest thing she ever did was marry a poor ranch hand with big dreams. Everyone told her she was crazy, that he'd never amount to anything. She did it anyway. What's your point? My point is, the brave thing is usually the scary thing, and if you run from this gala, you'll run from everything else too. Maria opened the door. Think about it. She left, and Emma stood in the empty cabin feeling like she'd been seen all the way through. That night, James came by with takeout and found Emma pacing. "What's wrong?" he asked. Maria came by. James's face went carefully neutral. "What did she say?" "That your staff thinks I'm trying to replace Anna, that they'll judge me at the gala, that I need to decide if I'm brave enough for this." "And are you—" Emma stopped pacing. "I don't know. I've been brave once already. Opening my door in the blizzard, coming here, starting over. How many times do I have to be brave? As many times as it takes." James set down the food and crossed to her. "But Emma, if this is too much, if my world really is too hard, I'll understand. I'll help you get back to your mountain. No judgment." "You say that now." "I mean it now. I want you here. Sarah wants you here. But not if it breaks you." Emma looked up at him. At this man who'd knocked on her door in a blizzard and changed everything. Who was trying so hard to be better? Who made her want to try too? "I'll go to the gala," she said. "But if I make a fool of myself, that's on you." James broke into a smile. "Deal. And you're getting me a dress. A real one, because I have no idea what fancy people wear to these things." "Already done. I had Maria order several. They're being delivered tomorrow. You can pick whichever you like." "You were that sure I'd say yes." "No, but I was hopeful." Emma shook her head, but she was smiling. "You're impossible." "You're brave." "We'll see. Ask me again after the gala." They ate dinner, and Emma tried not to think about 500 people staring at her. Tried not to imagine all the ways she could fail at being the person James needed her to be. But deep down, under the fear, there was something else. Excitement. Maybe even hope. 3 days until the gala. 3 days to prepare for the moment when Emma Hale would step out of hiding and into the light. She just hoped she didn't burn. The dresses arrived in garment bags that probably cost more than Emma's entire wardrobe back on the mountain. Maria brought them personally along with a woman named Claire, who apparently specialized in making rich people look even richer. "I don't need a stylist," Emma protested as they invaded her cabin. "Yes, you do," Maria said firmly. "Unless you want to show up looking like you're going to a church potluck." Claire was already unzipping bags, revealing gowns and colors Emma didn't have names for. Emerald, sapphire, something between gold and bronze that seemed to shift in the light. "Try this one first," Claire said, holding up a deep blue dress. Emma took it reluctantly and disappeared into the bedroom. The fabric felt like water in her hands. She struggled with the zipper, finally got it up, and stared at herself in the small mirror. She looked like a stranger. The dress hugged her thin frame in ways that made her look elegant instead of starved. The color brought out her eyes, made her skin glow, instead of looking sallow. "Let us see," Maria called. Emma emerged slowly. Claire circled her, assessing. "Good bones," Claire murmured. "We can work with this, but try the bronze one. It'll be better with your coloring." 3 dresses later, Emma stood in front of them, wearing something the color of autumn leaves. It had a simple cut, but moved like it was alive. made her look like someone who belonged at galas. "That's the one," Maria said softly. "Mrs. Anna would have loved that dress." Emma's throat tightened. "I'm not trying to be her. I know. But you're living in her cabin, caring for her daughter, standing in her place at the gala." Maria's voice was gentle. "People will compare you. It's inevitable. And how do I compare? You don't. You're your own person. That dress proves it. Mrs. Anna would have chosen the emerald. Bold, vibrant. You chose bronze. Quieter, but just as strong." Claire left with the rejected dresses, promising to return the day of the gala to help with hair and makeup. After she was gone, Maria lingered. "Can I tell you something?" Maria asked. "Can I stop you?" Maria smiled. "Mr. James hasn't been happy since Mrs. Anna died. Oh, he's been functional, successful, but not happy. Then you came, and I see him smile now, real smiles, not the ones he gives to business partners. We're not together, not like that. Not yet, but you will be. Anyone with eyes can see it." Maria moved to the door. "The question is, whether you'll let yourself be happy too." After Maria left, Emma stood alone in the bronze dress, staring at her reflection. She looked like someone who could handle a gala, someone who belonged in James Colton's world. She just wasn't sure that person was her. Sarah burst through the door an hour later, no knock, just pure 7-year-old energy. "Maria said you got a dress. Can I see it?" Emma was back in her normal clothes jeans and one of Thomas's old flannel shirts. "It's hanging in the bedroom." Sarah ran to look and came back with eyes like saucers. "Emma, you're going to look like a princess." "I'm going to look like I'm pretending to be a princess." "What's the difference?" Emma thought about it. "I don't know anymore." Sarah climbed onto the couch next to her. "Are you scared about the gala?" "Terrified." "Daddy says being scared means you're about to do something important." "Your daddy says a lot of wise things. He learned them from Mama. She used to tell him stuff when he was worried about the ranch." Sarah picked at a loose thread on the couch. "Do you think Mama would be mad that you're here?" Emma pulled Sarah close. "I think your Mama would want your daddy to be happy, and you to have someone who cares about you. That's what good mothers want." "Do you care about me?" "More than I expected to. More than I probably should after knowing you such a short time." "I love you," Sarah said simply, like it was the easiest truth in the world. Emma's eyes burned. "I love you too, sweetheart." They sat like that for a while holding each other. Then Sarah said, "Will you dance with Daddy at the gala?" "I don't know how to dance, not the fancy kind." "He'll teach you. He's really good. Mama made him take lessons before their wedding." The thought of James dancing this cowboy CEO in his work boots and button-downs made Emma smile. "I'd like to see that." "Then you have to dance with him, so you can see." That evening, James arrived with dinner and found Sarah teaching Emma a clumsy version of a waltz in the living room. They were both laughing, stumbling over each other's feet. "What's happening here?" James asked, setting down food bags. "I'm teaching Emma to dance," Sarah announced. "But she's terrible." "I am terrible," Emma agreed. "Your daughter is a harsh critic." James grinned. "May I cut in?" Sarah stepped back with exaggerated formality. James crossed to Emma and held out his hand. "I don't have music," Emma said. "Don't need it." She took his hand and he pulled her close, one hand at her waist, the other holding hers. They started moving, and Emma immediately stepped on his foot. "Sorry." "You're thinking too much. Just follow my lead." "I don't know how to follow." "I've noticed." But he was smiling. "Just trust me. For 3 minutes, trust me." Emma took a breath and stopped trying to anticipate his movements. Just let him guide her. And slowly, awkwardly, they found a rhythm. Nothing smooth, nothing fancy, but they were moving together. Sarah hummed a melody, making up for the lack of music. Emma found herself relaxing into James's arms. Found herself not caring that she kept messing up the steps. "See," James said quietly. "You're a natural. I'm a disaster. A beautiful disaster." Emma looked up at him. He was closer than she'd realized. Close enough that she could see gold flecks in his gray eyes. Close enough to kiss if either of them were brave enough. Sarah's humming stopped. "Are you going to kiss?" They sprang apart like guilty teenagers. Emma felt her face burning. "No," James said, clearing his throat. "We were just dancing. You were looking at each other like people do before they kiss. I've seen it in movies." "Sarah, go wash up for dinner," James said. "But, now please." Sarah left giggling. James and Emma stood in awkward silence. "Sorry about that," James said. "It's fine. She's very observant." "She is." More silence. Then James said, "But she's not wrong." Emma's heart stopped. "What?" "About wanting to kiss you. She's not wrong about that." He met her eyes. "But I'm not going to. Not yet. Not until you're sure this is what you want. That I'm what you want." "James?" "The gala is in 2 days. After that, after you've seen my world fully, after you've decided if you can live in it, then we'll talk about this. About us." He moved to the kitchen, putting distance between them. "Until then, we're just friends, learning to dance." Emma wanted to argue, wanted to close the distance and kiss him just to prove she could make her own decisions. But he was right. She needed to know if she could survive his world before she let herself fall any further. Because she was falling. Had been since the moment he'd knocked on her cabin door. Maybe even since Sarah had looked at her with those clear blue eyes and said thank you. They ate dinner like nothing had happened. Sarah chattered about her day. James talked about ranch business. Emma mostly stayed quiet, processing. After they left, Emma lay in bed and touched her lips, imagining what it would feel like when James finally kissed her. If he kissed her. If she didn't run screaming back to the mountain first. 2 days until the gala. 2 days until everything changed again. The morning of the gala. Emma woke up nauseated. She spent an hour on the porch trying to talk herself out of running. Maria showed up at noon with Claire and an arsenal of beauty products. "I can do my own hair," Emma protested. "Not for this, you can't." Maria steered her inside. "Stop fighting. Let us help." The next 2 hours were torture. Claire washed and styled Emma's hair, taming the mountain wildness into something sleek. She did makeup not heavy, just enough to make Emma's features stand out. She gave instructions about how to walk in heels, how to hold a champagne glass, how to make small talk with strangers who'd judge every word. "Don't talk about being poor," Claire said. "Don't apologize for being here. Don't explain yourself unless directly asked. These people respect confidence, even if it's fake. So lie. So survive." When they finally let Emma look in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. The woman staring back looked sophisticated, elegant, like she could handle anything. Emma knew better. The dress went on last. Maria helped with the zipper, adjusted the fabric until it hung perfectly. Added simple jewelry. Anna's jewelry, Maria admitted quietly. Earrings and a bracelet that had belonged to James's dead wife. "He wanted you to wear them," Maria said, "as a good luck charm." Emma's hands shook as she put them on. She was wearing a dead woman's jewelry, living in her cabin, raising her daughter, falling for her husband. The weight of it was crushing. "I can't do this," Emma whispered. "Yes, you can." Maria turned Emma to face the mirror. "Look at yourself. You're strong enough to survive alone on a mountain. You're strong enough for one night with rich people. They'll hate me. Some will, others won't. But Mr. James will be beside you the whole time, and little Sarah will be cheering you on. You're not alone anymore, Emma. That's the point." A knock at the door. James's voice calling that he was here. Maria squeezed Emma's shoulders. Breathe, smile, survive. We'll see you through. Emma walked to the door on shaking legs, opened it. James stood on the porch in a tuxedo that probably cost more than a car. His hair was slicked back, his jaw clean-shaven. He looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine, like a stranger. Then he saw her, and his face transformed. Emma. Too much. She touched her hair self-consciously. You're stunning. I'm terrified. That too. He offered his arm. But you're not alone. I've got you. Emma took his arm and let him lead her to the truck. A different truck, this one clean and expensive, no work dirt in the bed. Sarah sat in the back in a dress of her own pink and covered in sparkles. You look like a princess, Sarah squealed. You look like a princess, Emma countered. We can both be princesses. The drive to the main house took 20 minutes. Emma used every second to try to calm her racing heart. James kept one hand on the wheel, the other reaching over to squeeze hers. If it gets too much, just tell me. We'll leave. You can't leave your own gala. Watch me. The main house came into view, lit up like a palace, cars already lining the drive, people in evening wear climbing the front steps. Emma's stomach lurched. I'm going to be sick. No, you're not. You're going to walk in there. Let me introduce you to a few people. Eat some overpriced food and dance with me once. That's it. That's the whole night. And deal with everyone judging me. Let them judge. Their opinions don't matter. Easy for you to say. You belong here. James pulled up to the front entrance and turned to face her. I don't belong here either. I'm a ranch hand's son who got lucky. Anna's family thought she was insane for marrying me. Society people thought I was white trash pretending to be someone I'm not. He touched her face gently. But Anna didn't care what they thought. And eventually neither did I. You'll get there too. Promise? Promise. A valet opened Emma's door. She climbed out, carefully remembering Claire's instructions about moving in heels. James came around and offered his arm again. Sarah took his other hand. Together, they walked up the steps. The entry hall was full of people, all dressed in clothes that cost more than Emma used to make in a year. Conversations stopped as they entered. Every eye turned to stare. Emma heard the whispers immediately. Who is that? Is that the woman living in Anna's cabin? She's pretty, in a plain sort of way. What is James thinking? James leaned close and whispered, Ignore them. Eyes on me. Emma gripped his arm tighter and kept moving. They entered the main ballroom, a massive space with chandeliers and a live band and tables set with china that probably belonged in museums. Maria appeared at their side. Your table is in the front, Mr. James, and Emma, the powder room is down the hall if you need a moment. I need a moment, Emma said immediately. I'll show you. Maria took her arm and guided her away from the crowd. James let her go reluctantly. The powder room was blessedly empty. Emma braced herself against the marble sink and tried to remember how to breathe. They all think I'm trash, she said. They think you're competition, Maria corrected. Half these women have been angling to catch Mr. James for 2 years. You beat them to it. We're not together. Details. In their minds, you're the threat. That's why they're hostile. Maria handed her a tissue. Don't let them see you cry. Don't give them that power. Emma dabbed at her eyes carefully, trying not to ruin Claire's work. How did Anna handle this? Mrs. Anna. She smiled at everyone like she knew a secret they didn't, made them all crazy trying to figure out what she knew. Maria smiled at the memory. She was good at this game, better than Mr. James. She protected him from the worst of it. I don't know how to play games. Then don't play, just be yourself. The woman who opened her door in a blizzard. The woman who's teaching little Sarah to be more than a spoiled rich kid. The woman Mr. James can't stop smiling around. Maria touched Emma's shoulder. That woman is stronger than any game-playing society witch out there. Emma took a shaky breath and stood up straight. fixed her hair, checked her reflection. The sophisticated woman stared back, but Emma could see the mountain woman underneath. Feral, tough, surviving. "Okay," Emma said. "Let's do this." They walked back to the ballroom. James was surrounded by people, men in tuxedos, women in gowns, all vying for his attention. He saw Emma and immediately excused himself, crossing to her side. "Better?" he asked quietly. "No, but I'm here. That's all that matters." Dinner was an exercise in endurance. Emma sat at a table with James, Sarah, and 6 people she'd never met, board members and major donors, all watching her like a science experiment. She used the right fork only because she watched James first. Made polite conversation when spoken to. Didn't mention the mountain or poverty or anything that would mark her as different. Claire had been right. Fake confidence was better than honest uncertainty. Halfway through dinner, a woman across the table, rail-thin with jewelry that could fund a small country, smiled at Emma with teeth like a shark. "So Emma, how exactly do you know James?" "We met during the blizzard." "How romantic. And you're staying in Anna's cabin?" "Yes." "How cozy." The woman sipped her wine. "It must be quite an adjustment from your previous life." Emma felt James tense beside her, felt his hand find hers under the table. "It is," Emma said carefully. "But I'm adaptable." "Clearly." The shark smile widened. "And what do you do for work?" "Currently, I'm figuring that out." "So you don't work?" "Margaret," James said, voice sharp. "That's enough." "I'm just curious." "We all are. This mysterious woman living in Anna's cabin attending the gala as your date. She's my guest. And her life before she came here is none of your business." Margaret's eyes glittered. "Touchy. You must really like her." Sarah, who'd been quiet through most of dinner, suddenly spoke up. "Emma saved our lives. We were freezing, and she let us in and gave us her last food. She's the bravest person I know." The table went quiet. Margaret looked like she'd been slapped. "Well," Margaret said finally, "that's quite a story." "It's the truth," Sarah said firmly. "And Emma's teaching me chores and how to cook and how to be a better person, which is more than anyone else here has done." James squeezed Emma's hand so hard it hurt, but he was smiling, proud of his daughter for fighting back. The rest of dinner was quieter. Margaret and her allies retreated into wounded silence. Emma could breathe again. After dinner came dancing. The band started playing and couples filled the floor. James stood and offered his hand to Emma. "I'll step on your feet," she warned. "I don't care." They moved to the floor and James pulled her close. This time, with music and other people around them, Emma was even more self-conscious. She stumbled immediately. "Stop thinking," James murmured. "Just feel the music." "I can't." "Yes, you can. You did it in the cabin." Emma closed her eyes and tried to remember that moment. Sarah humming, James's hand at her waist, the ease of it when she stopped fighting. Slowly, she found the rhythm again, started moving with James instead of against him. "There you go," he said. "See, you're doing it." Emma opened her eyes and realized they were at the center of the floor, everyone watching. She tensed immediately. "Don't look at them. Look at me." She forced her eyes to his face, found him watching her with something that looked like wonder. "What?" she whispered. "You're doing it. You're surviving my world." "Barely." "Still counts." The song ended. Another began. James didn't let her go. They kept dancing, and Emma stopped caring who was watching. Stopped caring about Margaret's judgmental eyes or the whispers following them around the room. For 3 minutes, she just danced with a man who made her feel like maybe she could be brave one more time. When the song finally ended, James led her off the floor. Sarah ran up, bouncing with excitement. "That was so pretty. You guys looked like you were in a movie." "Your dad's a good dancer," Emma said. "You're a good dancer too, even though you were scared." Emma knelt to Sarah's level. "How'd you know I was scared?" "Because I'm scared too. All these people looking at us. But Daddy says we do brave things even when we're scared. That's what makes them brave." Emma pulled Sarah into a hug. This girl who'd lost her mother but still believed in bravery, who defended Emma to sharks like Margaret, who loved without hesitation. "You're pretty wise for 7 years old," Emma said. "I learned from the best people." Sarah pulled back and grinned. "You and Daddy and Mama. Even though I don't remember her much, Daddy tells me stories." The rest of the evening blurred. Emma met dozens of people whose names she'd never remember, made small talk that felt like walking through a minefield, endured more judgment, more curiosity, more barely veiled hostility from women who'd wanted James for themselves. But she survived. And when they finally left hours later, Emma felt like she'd climbed a mountain. Different from her literal mountain, but just as hard. In the truck on the way back to the cabin, Sarah fell asleep between them. James drove slowly, one hand on the wheel. "You did amazing tonight," he said quietly. "I wanted to run about 50 times. But you didn't. That's what matters. Margaret hates me. Margaret hates everyone. Don't take it personally." Emma laughed shakily. "Your world is exhausting." "I know. I'm sorry." "Don't apologize. I chose to come." She looked at him. "And I'm glad I did. Scared out of my mind, but glad." They pulled up to the cabin. James carried sleeping Sarah inside and laid her in the spare bed. When he came back out, Emma was standing on the porch, shoes off, dress sparkling in the moonlight. "Thank you," she said, "for tonight, for being patient with me. Thank you for trying." He moved closer. "Emma, I know I said we'd wait, that we'd talk about this after the gala, but I can't wait anymore." Emma's heart raced. "James, I'm in love with you. I have been since you opened that door in the blizzard, maybe even since you pointed a shotgun at me and told me to get lost." He took her hands. "And I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. I know I'm asking you to take on a ready-made family and a world that's hostile and a life that's nothing like what you had. But I don't care. Because when I'm with you, I remember how to breathe. And I want that. I want you." Emma couldn't speak, couldn't process. Her mind was spinning. "You don't have to answer now," James continued. "Take your time. Think about it. Just know that I'm here, that I'm not going anywhere, that whatever you decide, I'll—" Emma kissed him, just leaned in and pressed her lips to his, cutting off his words. For a second, he froze, surprised. Then his arms came around her, and he kissed her back. It wasn't a perfect kiss. Emma was out of practice, and James was too eager. But it was real. It was them. Two broken people choosing to try again. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Emma rested her forehead against his. "I love you too," she whispered. "I'm terrified. And I don't know if I can do this long term. And your world might eat me alive. But I love you, and I want to try." James pulled her closer. "That's all I'm asking. Just try." They stood like that for a long time, holding each other under the stars. Inside, Sarah slept peacefully. Above them, the mountain watched. Around them, the ranch stretched into darkness. Emma thought about the woman she'd been alone on her mountain waiting to die. Thought about the knock that had changed everything. About the choice to open the door. She'd been so sure that choice would damn her. Instead, it had saved her. "Stay with me tonight," she said to James. "Just to sleep. I don't want to be alone." "Never again," James promised. "You never have to be alone again." They went inside together. James stretched out on the couch. Emma brought him blankets and a pillow. But before she could go to her own room, he caught her hand. "Emma, earlier when I said I loved you." "I know." "No, I don't think you do. I don't just love you. You've made me remember who I was before the empire, before the loss. You've given me my daughter back. You've given me myself back." His voice cracked. So when I say I love you, I mean you saved my life. Just like Sarah said, you saved both of us. Emma's eyes burned with tears. You saved me too. I just didn't know I needed saving. She went to bed alone, but not lonely. For the first time in 3 years, Emma Hale fell asleep smiling. The next morning brought reality crashing back. Emma woke to shouting outside. She threw on clothes and ran to the porch to find James and Maria in a heated argument. You can't fire me for telling the truth, Maria was saying. I'm not firing you for telling the truth. I'm firing you for going behind my back. Someone had to warn her what she was walking into. That was my job. Emma stepped between them. What's going on? Maria looked at her with something like pity. Did you see the news this morning? What news? James's jaw was tight. There were photographers at the gala, society reporters. They got pictures of us dancing, posted them online. So now it's all over the internet. Millionaire rancher and his mysterious girlfriend. The poor widow living in his dead wife's cabin. They're calling you a gold digger. They're calling me a fool. James ran a hand through his hair. It's a feeding frenzy. Emma felt cold. Let me see. Maria handed over her phone reluctantly. Emma scrolled through article after article. Pictures of her and James dancing. Headlines that made her stomach turn. Colton's new love opportunist, or real deal. From mountain poverty to mansion life. Emma Hale's fairy tale. Is James Colton betraying his late wife's memory? And the comments. Thousands of comments all dissecting Emma's dress, her looks, her past. Calling her names. Accusing her of using Sarah to get to James. Saying she was poor white trash trying to marry up. Emma handed the phone back, hands shaking. I need to go. Emma? James started. I need to go back to my mountain. This was a mistake. Don't let them win. They already won. They always win. Emma's voice broke. I'm not strong enough for this, James. I'm not Anna. I can't smile through the judgment and the hatred and the... I don't want you to be Anna. I want you to be you. This is me, a poor widow who doesn't belong in your world. They see it. Why can't you? Sarah appeared in the doorway crying. Don't leave. Please don't leave. Emma's heart shattered. She knelt and pulled Sarah close. I'm not leaving you, sweetheart. I just need some time. That's what Mama said when she went to the hospital the last time, that she just needed time, but she never came back. Emma closed her eyes against tears. That's different. Is it? Sarah pulled back, face streaked with tears. Everyone leaves. Mama left, and now you're leaving, and Daddy will be sad again. And it's all my fault. None of this is your fault. Yes, it is. I asked you to stay. I said I loved you. I made you come to the gala. Sarah was sobbing now. If I'd just left you alone, you'd still be happy on your mountain. James scooped up his daughter. Sarah, listen to me. This is not your fault. None of it. Emma's scared, and that's okay. We all get scared. But she's leaving. She's thinking. That's different. James looked at Emma over Sarah's head. His eyes held pain, but also understanding. Take the time you need. I'll be here. We'll both be here. Emma couldn't speak. She just nodded and watched James carry his crying daughter back toward the main house. Maria lingered. I'm sorry, Maria said quietly. I thought you should know what you were walking into, but I didn't think it would be this bad. It's fine. It's not fine, but it will be, if you're brave enough. Maria touched Emma's arm. Mrs. Anna faced worse than this. Society people hated her for marrying a poor ranch hand. They said terrible things, but she didn't run. She stayed and proved them all wrong. I'm not Anna, Emma said for the 100th time. No, but you're strong in your own way. You survived alone on a mountain. Surely you can survive some internet trolls. After Maria left, Emma went inside and looked at the bronze dress hanging in her closet. At Anna's jewelry on the dresser. At all the ways she'd been trying to fit into a dead woman's life. Maybe Maria and James and Sarah were wrong. Maybe she wasn't strong enough for this. Maybe some doors were meant to stay closed. Emma spent 3 days alone in the cabin, not answering James's calls, not opening the door when Sarah knocked and begged to come in. She sat in the window seat where Anna used to read and stared at nothing, trying to figure out who she was and what she wanted. The internet had moved on to other scandals, but the damage was done. Emma had seen herself through their eyes, a desperate woman clinging to a rich man's coattails. And maybe they were right. Maybe she was using James and Sarah to fill the holes Thomas and her baby had left. On the 4th day, Maria showed up with groceries and refused to leave until Emma let her in. "You look terrible," Maria said bluntly, setting bags on the counter. "Thanks." "When's the last time you ate?" Emma couldn't remember. Maria started cooking without asking permission, moving around the cabin like she owned it. "Mr. James is miserable," Maria said while chopping vegetables. "Won't talk to anyone, just works 18-hour days like he did after Mrs. Anna died, and little Sarah cries herself to sleep every night asking for you." "Don't manipulate me." "I'm not manipulating. I'm telling you what your running away is doing to people who love you." Maria pointed the knife at Emma. "You want to go back to your mountain, fine, but don't pretend it's noble. Don't pretend you're doing it for them. You're doing it because you're scared." "Of course I'm scared. Did you see what they said about me? I saw strangers on the internet being cruel because that's what strangers do. But I also saw Mr. James looking at you like you hung the moon, and little Sarah defending you to society sharks, and you dancing in that bronze dress like you were exactly where you belonged." Maria stopped chopping. "Which version matters more, the strangers or the people who actually know you?" Emma didn't answer. Maria finished cooking and forced Emma to eat. After she left, Emma climbed into bed and slept for 14 hours straight. She woke to someone singing. Emma followed the sound outside and found Sarah on the porch, sitting cross-legged, singing a made-up song about mountains and angels and being brave. The girl's voice was pure and sweet and completely off-key. "Sarah." Emma's voice was rough from days of not talking. Sarah spun around, face lighting up. "Emma, you're awake." "How long have you been out here?" "A while. Daddy's at work, but I snuck away. Maria brought me." Sarah stood and twisted her hands nervously. "Are you still leaving?" Emma sat on the porch steps. "I don't know." "Can I tell you something?" "Always." Sarah sat beside her. "When Mama died, I stopped talking for 3 months. The doctors said it was trauma. Daddy tried everything, but I just couldn't. The words were stuck." "What made you start again?" "Daddy took me to Mama's grave and told me she'd be sad if I stayed quiet forever. That she'd want me to live big and loud and brave. And I realized being scared was making me small. Making Mama's death mean I had to be small too." Sarah looked at Emma with those clear blue eyes. "You opened your door in a blizzard when you were scared. You came to the gala when you were scared. Don't stop being brave now, just because some mean people said mean things." Emma felt tears sliding down her face. "When did you get so wise?" "I learned from you, and Daddy, and Mama's memory." Sarah took Emma's hand. "Please don't go. I know you're not my mama. I know you're your own person. But I love you. And love is supposed to make us braver, not more scared." Emma pulled Sarah into her lap and held her tight. "I love you too. So much it terrifies me." "Being terrified means it matters." "Your dad says that too." "Because it's true." They sat like that until Emma heard a truck approaching. James climbed out, still in work clothes covered in dust and exhaustion. He stopped when he saw them on the porch. "Sarah, you were supposed to stay with Maria." "I know. But Emma needed me." James looked at Emma. "Did she?" "Yeah," Emma said quietly. "She did." Sarah wiggled out of Emma's lap. "I'm going to pick flowers. You two should talk." She ran off before either adult could stop her. James climbed the porch steps slowly and sat beside Emma. Not touching, just close. "I'm sorry," Emma said, "for shutting you out. You don't have to apologize for being scared. But I do have to apologize for running. Again. It's all I know how to do when things get hard." "Then maybe it's time to learn something new." James turned to face her. "Emma, I'm not going to tell you that my world is easy. It's not. There will always be people like Margaret who judge you. Always be articles dissecting our relationship. Always be pressure and expectations and bullshit." He took her hand. "But there will also be this. You and me and Sarah. Dinners at the cabin. Dancing in the living room. Teaching my daughter to be a better human. Building something real in the middle of all the fake. What if I can't handle it? What if I try for a year and realize I'm drowning? Then we'll figure it out together. Maybe we sell the ranch. Move somewhere smaller. Build a life that works for all of us instead of trying to fit you into mine." He squeezed her hand. "I don't need the empire, Emma. I thought I did. Thought it was what Anna would have wanted. But she would have wanted me to be happy. And I'm only happy with you." Emma's throat was tight. "You'd really sell the ranch? For you, for us, in a heartbeat. But it's everything you built." "No, it's just land and cattle and money. You're everything. You and Sarah. The rest is just noise." Emma looked at him, this man who'd knocked on her door in a blizzard and refused to let her hide anymore. Who'd shown her his broken places and asked her to help him heal. Who loved her enough to offer to burn down his empire if it meant keeping her. "I don't want you to sell the ranch," she said finally. "I want to learn how to live in your world, how to survive the Margarets and the articles and all of it. Because you're right. What we have is real. And I'm tired of running from real things." James pulled her into his arms. "You mean it?" "I'm terrified. But yes. That's all I need. Terrified and staying." They held each other until Sarah came back with a bouquet of wildflowers beaming at them like she'd solved world peace. "Are we a family now?" Sarah asked. Emma and James looked at each other. Emma saw her own fear and hope reflected back. "Yeah," Emma said. "I think we are." Sarah launched herself at them both, and they tumbled together on the porch laughing. Three people who'd lost everything learning how to be whole again. That night, James stayed for dinner. Real dinner with all of them cooking together. Sarah burned the potatoes. Emma oversalted the chicken. James dropped a pan and dented the floor. But they ate it all anyway and declared it the best meal they'd ever had. After Sarah fell asleep in the spare room, James and Emma sat on the porch under the stars. "I want to marry you," James said suddenly. Emma's heart stopped. "What?" "Not now. Not tomorrow. But someday. When you're ready. When you've decided this life is really what you want." He turned to her. "I want you to be Sarah's stepmom. Want to wake up next to you every morning. Want to build a life that's ours, not mine or Anna's or anyone else's. Just ours." Emma couldn't speak for a moment. Then, "Ask me again in a year." "A year? Give me a year to prove I can do this. To prove I'm not going to run when it gets hard. To prove I'm worthy of what you're offering." She took his hand. "And if after a year I'm still here, still standing, still loving you both, ask me again." James grinned. "Deal. But I'm warning you now, I'm going to spend that whole year showing you how much I love you. Making it impossible for you to leave. I'm counting on it." They kissed under the stars, slow and sweet and full of promise. When they finally broke apart, James rested his forehead against hers. "Thank you," he whispered, "for being brave enough to open the door. Thank you for knocking." The next morning, Emma woke to Sarah jumping on her bed again, but this time James was there too, laughing as his daughter used them both as trampolines. "This is what mornings will be like," James warned. 7-year-old alarm clocks are brutal. "I'll manage," Emma said, grabbing Sarah and tickling her until she shrieked. They made breakfast together properly this time, with actual edible results. after James had to go deal with ranch business, but Sarah stayed with Emma. "Can we work on the garden?" Sarah asked. "Absolutely." They spent hours outside planting vegetables and flowers, getting dirt under their nails and sun on their faces. Sarah chattered about everything school friends she wanted to invite over chores she was actually doing now without complaint. "Daddy says you're going to stay forever," Sarah said while watering tomato plants. "I'm going to try. But you're scared you'll mess up." Emma looked at this wise 7-year-old. "Yeah, I am. That's okay. Daddy messes up all the time. Last week he forgot my teacher conference, and he burned dinner 3 times. Sarah shrugged. "But he always says sorry and tries better. That's what families do." "You're right. That is what families do." That afternoon, Mariah showed up with fabric samples and paint chips. "What's all this?" Emma asked. "You can't live in a shrine forever," Maria said practically. "Mrs. Anna would want you to make this place yours. So pick some colors, choose some new curtains, make it home." Emma started to protest, then stopped. Maria was right. She couldn't build a life in Anna's shadow. She needed to make this cabin her own. They spent hours planning changes. Nothing drastic, just enough to shift the energy from memorial to home. Emma chose warm colors instead of Anna's cool ones. Picked sturdy fabrics instead of delicate ones. Made choices that reflected who she was instead of trying to be someone she wasn't. When James came back that evening, Emma was painting the kitchen wall a deep golden yellow. "You're redecorating," he said, surprised. "Maria's orders. Is that okay?" "It's more than okay. It's perfect." He grabbed a brush. "What can I do?" They painted together while Sarah supervised, pointing out missed spots and suggesting colors for other rooms. When they finally finished, covered in paint and exhausted, the cabin felt different, lighter, like it was finally ready to move forward. The next few weeks settled into a rhythm. Sarah visited every day after her tutoring. James came every evening for dinner. On weekends, they explored the ranch together, Emma learning all the places Anna had loved and finding new ones that were just hers. Emma started helping with ranch business, organizing the office that had been chaos, streamlining processes that didn't make sense. She had a head for numbers, it turned out. A practical approach that balanced James's big picture thinking. "You should be on the payroll," James said one night, watching her reorganize his filing system. "I don't want your money." "It's not my money. It's payment for work. There's a difference." Emma thought about it. About the rent she'd insisted on paying, but James had refused to accept. About pride and practicality. "Okay, but I want a real salary. Not some inflated amount because we're together." "Deal." By the time spring arrived, Emma had become part of the ranch's rhythm. The staff stopped whispering and started greeting her by name. Sarah's nannies asked Emma's opinion on scheduling and activities. Even Margaret, at a charity luncheon Emma forced herself to attend, gave a curt nod of acknowledgement. "You're doing it," James said one evening. They were on the porch watching the sunset behind the mountains. "You're surviving my world. Some days better than others. But you're here. That's what counts." Emma leaned into him. "Ask me again." "Ask you what?" "You know what." James pulled back to look at her. "It hasn't been a year. It's been 6 months. Close enough. Ask me." James slid off the porch swing and onto one knee. Emma's breath caught. "Emma Hale, you saved my life the night you opened your door. You gave me back my daughter. Gave me back myself. You're brave and stubborn, and you call me on my bullshit. And you make this ranch feel like home instead of just an empire." He pulled a ring from his pocket, simple gold with a single stone. "Will you marry me?" Emma looked at the ring, at James's hopeful face, at the cabin that was now hers, at the mountains beyond, at Sarah peeking out the window, barely containing her excitement. "Yes," Emma said. "Yes, I'll marry you." James slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her while Sarah exploded out of the cabin screaming with joy. "I knew it! I knew you'd say yes." They tumbled together, laughing and crying and holding each other. A family born from a blizzard, and a knock on the door, and the courage to say yes. The wedding was small. Just Sarah and Maria, and a few ranch hands who'd become friends. They held it at the cabin under the aspens that whispered in the wind. Emma wore a simple white dress she'd bought herself, no designer gowns, no pretending to be someone she wasn't. Sarah stood beside her as bridesmaid, holding a bouquet of wildflowers. James wore his good suit, the one he saved for important meetings. His hands shook as he took Emma's. "I don't have fancy vows prepared," James said when it was time. "Just this, Emma, you taught me that bravery isn't about being fearless. It's about being scared and doing it anyway. You opened your door when you wanted to keep it closed. You came to the gala when you wanted to run. You stayed when leaving would have been easier. That's bravery. That's love. And I promise to be just as brave for you, every day, for the rest of our lives." Emma wiped tears from her face. "I didn't prepare anything either. But here's what I know, James, you knocked on my door when I'd given up on living. You and Sarah reminded me what it feels like to be part of something bigger than my own grief. You've been patient while I figured out how to be brave again, and I promise to keep being brave, to keep choosing us even on the hard days, to build a life with you that honors what we've lost while celebrating what we've found." They exchanged rings, Emma's simple band, now joined by James's own. When the minister pronounced them married, James kissed her like she was the most precious thing in the world. Sarah cheered. Maria cried. The ranch hands clapped. And Emma Hale became Emma Colton. The reception was just dinner on the cabin porch. Someone brought a guitar, and they sang off-key. Sarah taught Emma a dance she'd learned from her mother. James told stories about Anna that made everyone laugh instead of cry. "She would have liked you," Maria said to Emma during a quiet moment. "Mrs. Anna. She would have been glad Mr. James found someone real." "Thank you," Emma said, "for everything, for pushing me when I needed it. That's what family does." As the sun set and the party wound down, Emma and James stood at the edge of the porch, watching the stars appear. "What are you thinking?" James asked. "I'm thinking about the woman I was 6 months ago, alone on a mountain, waiting to die, and how that woman wouldn't recognize the person I am now. Better or worse? Different, braver, more alive." Emma turned to him. "I'm thinking about how a single knock on a door changed everything. Best decision I ever made. Best decision I ever made was opening it." Sarah ran up and squeezed between them. "Can I sleep in your room tonight? The big bed." Emma and James looked at each other and smiled. "Not tonight, sweetheart," James said. "Tonight Emma and I need time just for us. But tomorrow night, you can camp out on our floor if you want." "Really? Really?" Sarah hugged them both and ran off to tell Maria about the camping plan. "Our floor?" Emma asked. "I'm moving into the cabin, if that's okay. We'll add on, make space for Sarah to have her own room, but this will be home, not the main house. This. I'd like that." They went inside, eventually said goodnight to the last guests, tucked Sarah into the spare room. When they finally made it to their own room, Emma's room, their room now, James pulled her close. "I love you," he said, "in case I haven't mentioned it today." "You have. About 17 times. Make it 18. I love you, Emma Colton." "I love you too." They made love slowly, carefully learning each other for the first time as husband and wife. After they lay tangled together, listening to the creek outside and Sarah's soft breathing in the next room. "You happy?" James asked. Emma thought about it. About Thomas and the baby she'd lost. About the years of grief and isolation. About the door that had opened and the family that had walked through. "Yeah," she said finally. "I'm happy. Scared sometimes. Overwhelmed sometimes. But happy. That's all any of us can ask for." Emma drifted off to sleep in her husband's arms, safe and warm and home. 6 months later, on a cold winter morning, Emma stood on the porch of the cabin and watched snow begin to fall. Sarah was inside helping James make pancakes. Their pancakes, a recipe they'd developed together through trial and error. The ranch stretched out before her, white and vast and beautiful. In the distance, she could see cattle huddled together for warmth. Closer, the garden they'd planted together lay dormant, waiting for spring. Emma thought about her old cabin on the mountain. Someone had moved in, a young couple looking for isolation. Emma had sold it to them for next to nothing, glad someone would use it. Glad it wouldn't just sit empty, a monument to her grief. She touched the locket around her neck, Thomas's photo still inside, but joined now by one of James and Sarah. The past and the present coexisting. Behind her, the door opened. James came out with coffee, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "About how 2 years ago I was alone in a blizzard, and how sometimes the scariest thing becomes the best thing." She turned to him. "About how you saved me." "We saved each other." "Yeah, we did." Sarah called from inside that breakfast was ready. James took Emma's hand and led her back into the warmth. The door closed behind them, shutting out the cold. Inside, Sarah was setting the table, chattering about the snow and whether they could build a snowman later. James poured orange juice. Emma served pancakes that were only slightly burned. They ate together, this family that had been born from a blizzard and built on bravery. They laughed and planned their day and simply existed in each other's presence. And Emma realized that happiness didn't mean forgetting the past. It meant learning to carry it while still moving forward. It meant opening doors even when you were scared. It meant choosing love even when it would be easier to hide. After breakfast, Sarah dragged them both outside. They built a snowman with a carrot nose and rocks for eyes. They had a snowball fight that left all three of them soaked and laughing. They made snow angels side by side, looking up at the gray sky. When they finally went back inside, frozen and happy, Emma made hot chocolate while James built a fire. Sarah wrapped herself in blankets and declared it the best day ever. "Even though we didn't do anything special?" Emma asked. "This is special," Sarah said. "Being together is special." That night, after Sarah was asleep, Emma and James sat by the fire, Emma's head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist. "Do you ever regret it?" Emma asked quietly. "Choosing this life with me instead of finding someone from your world?" "Never. Not once." James kissed her temple. "You are my world, Emma. You and Sarah. Everything else is just scenery. I love you. I love you too. Thank you for being brave enough to take a chance on us." Emma looked at the fire, thinking about all the chances she'd taken. Opening the door, leaving the mountain, attending the gala, staying when it would have been easier to run, saying yes to forever. Every single chance had been terrifying, and every single one had been worth it, because sometimes salvation comes disguised as strangers in a storm. Sometimes love begins with the courage to open the door, and sometimes the life you never imagined becomes the one you were always meant to live. Emma Colton had learned all of that the hard way, but standing here now in a cabin full of love and light and laughter, she wouldn't change a single terrifying, beautiful moment of the journey that had brought her home.